All right. This is Rockin' with J-Man. It's with Stanny Zelisko. Let's go. Congrats.
It's Zelisko.
Yes, Zelisko. Yes, I got it right. It's Zelisko.
Okay. Thank you.
Congratulations on your new book, All EXCE Applications Concert Promoter. Very
Mm. No, I'm sorry. I'm going to correct you on that. It's called Occupation Concert Promoter.
occupation concert.
Yeah, I don't want you to say the wrong words because people go looking for the book under another name. We can't have that, can we?
No, no.
All right.
I actually just read it. It was really cool. I loved how it was just a bunch of short stories about your life. It was easier so I could read a few at a time and not get lost and forget what your book was about.
I'm glad to hear that. That's why I wrote it that way. I swear to God.
Oh, really? Wow.
Uh-huh. I wanted, since people, really don't know who I am, except for the people that, know that I put on concerts and know who I am from Arizona or Nevada or whatever. But for all over the world, all over the country, I want people to enjoy this book. And I didn't want to be presumptuous by not having enough pictures or by talking in really long sentences and really long chapters, because people are going to go, who the heck is this guy? We don't even know who he is. So I thought this would be an easier way to get to know me.
But the stories were awesome. I love the pictures. I read it in digital, but I could only imagine how cool it looks in the real book.
Oh, it looks amazing in a real book. You got to have one.
So, so got on your so you got your start as a kid hooking up football players and baseball players with gigs. It was pretty cool when you are young and famous people became your friends. I made so bunch so far actually. I made a bunch so far as famous people as my friends. Actually,
Okay.
I'm starting off pretty good. I just hooked Jack Russell up with the gig at Headbangers Con. Probably get a few more in the next one.
Good.
Yeah,
Jack can probably use a gig.
yeah, I'm actually starting to become a little bit of a promoter myself. Actually, a little bit.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I actually am.
Are you going to put on a show?
Yeah, I'm gonna put on a show. Maybe in the future, hopefully.
All right. Well, just make sure you have a backup plan there, just in case it goes sideways.
All right, thank you. All right, yeah, we're definitely gonna need a backup plan. We don't want
Yeah.
Dab getting ripped off.
We can't have Dad getting ripped off because he'll get angry, and we can't have that.
Yes, no, scabs and broken noses. Could you imagine how different your career would have been if you didn't pick up that hitchhiker in Arizona?
Somebody else asked me that, and it's a really good question. I can't imagine. However, I think I would have been headed there anyway. But it would have probably been a different course. But it's interesting how just one thing like that changed everything for me, isn't it?
Yes. So your first show, you were going to book Stevie and Lindsay. What went
Right.
you and went through her dad to get them, but you chickened out for some reason. Why'd you do
I
that?
shouldn't what?
You chickened out. You chickened out.
Well, it's like this. When you're doing something for the first time, and that's what I was doing, was like, that was right at the beginning of when I started doing this. I mean, I almost said that was the start of my career. But you see, when you're just starting out to do something as a very young chap, you're not really thinking about doing something as a career. You're just trying to get by and get into something that you can latch onto and hopefully continue to do. So when you're facing, like, I'm looking backwards right now, and I've done 10 or 12,000 shows since that time. But at that time, I didn't know I was going to do 10 or 12,000 shows. And I didn't really know what I was doing, obviously. Otherwise, I would have pulled the trigger and I would have said, yes, let's do this show. And I would have sold it out and made a lot of money. But as they say, live and learn. The good news was I got to do shows with all three of those artists, not just Lindsay and Stevie, but Dan Fogelberg and Jerry Riopel. and I were best friends until he died a couple years ago. But it all worked out good. You know, it all worked out for the best.
What was it like watching Muddy Waters and Tom Petty playing together? I bet you wish you could have recorded that show. I bet you could.
I bet I wish I recorded that show too. I had no idea what was going to happen, which is how a lot of the greatest things end up happening. Because when I invited Tom to come to the show, we were having a concert with him the next night at another venue. And that was why we booked Tom to play on the night we did, was because he wanted the night off so he could see Muddy. He loved Muddy Waters. And after the show, Tom just asked me, goes, will you play some more music? And Muddy told him, no, I'm done. And then he says, well, if you play, I'll play. So to see the two of them together on stage, having as much fun as they had, maybe 100 people saw this because most of the people had already gone home. It was definitely one of the best nights ever for me, because I love Tom. Tom was a great guy, and Muddy was incredible. So it was nice to put those two guys together. They thanked me for the rest of their lives.
It had to be a scary situation when you booked your first major venue and Bob Singer canceled hours before.
Well, you know, again, it's like he said to me, he goes, well, why are you so upset? I'll come back and play for you. And, you know, it's like I said, Bob, the lobster's cooked. Everybody's eating. I got to pay for everything. And see, that's like one of the pitfalls of being a promoter, is that if anything goes wrong, like say it rains and you've got an outdoor show, it's not only your problem, but they'll act like it's your fault. If the bathrooms flood in the venue that you're in the facility, you're not a plumber, you're a concert promoter, but you're expected to make sure that those toilets work. When you're doing a concert, everything comes back to you as the promoter. And even if you didn't have anything to do with the problem, if that problem is getting in your way of doing your show, it's your problem. It might not be your fault. It goes both ways. But even when these things happen that you have no control over, somebody's got to foot the bill, and somebody's got to pay for whatever has to be paid for. Even if the show can't go on, they come to me looking to get paid. And it's fortunate for me that doesn't happen very often.
Tell me about throwing Mike Tyson off the stage about the Whitney Houston concert.
Well, I'll tell you what, I'm glad that I lived to talk about it. Old Mike wasn't real happy to see me when I came. What he had done basically is, you know, he lives in Las Vegas, and he came to the Whitney Houston concert. And during the show, after it had started, Whitney sent for me through her production manager, and I went over to see her. And she was mad because Mike was standing on the back of her stage while they were getting the stage ready for her performance. And Mike Tyson was there, and everybody was clapping for Mike, and everybody was thinking about Mike Tyson. And believe me when I tell you, no rock star, no singer, no girl, no guy, nobody who's going to go on stage wants somebody who's as big of a name or as famous as they are standing on the stage before they go on stage for everybody to see. It's very, it shakes it up. It's very intimidating. And she didn't like that a bit, you know, for somebody to be standing there getting clapped for while she's getting ready to come on stage. So I understood why she was upset, and I explained that to him, and he understood. And fortunately for me, he came out without incident. And as soon as his foot hit the floor with mine, the lights went out and she started the show, and she was absolutely fantastic. I got to visit with her after the show, and she goes, oh, my knight in shining armor. And then Mike Tyson was hiding behind the door, and he was gonna, act like he was gonna hit me or something, but he didn't. But he was a very nice guy, and I've seen him since then a couple of times, and he's a very nice man.
Yes, he seems like a very nice man. He seems like a great man. I thought the parts about comedian was very funny. What's the toaster for?
What's the what?
What's the toaster for?
The coaster?
The toaster. The toaster.
Ah, the toaster. You're talking about Rodney.
Yeah, Rodney, yes.
Well, when Rodney traveled, and I was promoting a show with him at the very beginning of his later career, because before I met Rodney, he played clubs in New York, and he played the Catskills, and he really didn't go around touring, playing concert halls. And then we did a show with him, and here he is flying on the plane, and on the plane he had his toaster oven in the original toaster box with rope wrapped around it, and it was for his toaster oven that he carried with him on the road because he had ulcers, so he always had to eat toast and drink milk.
Yeah, that's
so. He didn't like going into a hotel and they didn't have a toaster and he couldn't make his toast. So he brought it with him. Pretty smart guy.
a pretty smart guy for him, right?
Right.
Tell me about Queen trashing their green room.
Well, I think they were just letting off a little steam, the old boys will be boys thing. They, back in the day, these guys did some odd things to, shall we say, I don't know, loosen up. And so they had nothing else to do that day but to complain to their road manager about how I made them a cheese tray filled with a bunch of slices of pasteurized cheese, which they didn't like. They wanted it to be more grand and more royal. So we spent a couple $1,000s for them on a bunch of different, basically condiments and pickles and onions and peppers and cheeses and breads and fruits and you name it. And they were very appreciative of it when I made it for them, or so I thought. But then Jerry walked me back into the dressing room later, and apparently they enjoyed my efforts so much that they decorated the walls and the floor and the furniture and the carpeting. Everything had what we had so carefully made for them. But they apologized and paid for the mess, and they went on their way to the next town, probably to do it to some other unsuspecting fool like me.
So of the deal, went through the what acts of what would you have booked at Dracula's castle?
What would I have booked?
Yes. Sorry.
Well, at the time, I wanted to have Alice Cooper and Black Sabbath and AC/DC and the Scorpions. That's who I wanted. Think that would have been a good show?
Yeah, that would have been a fantastic show. Wow.
Oh, and I think I would have added Kiss to that show too. Right? This place, there's some pictures of it there in the book, but you can also look up online. It's the most dramatic backdrop that I could ever have, knowing where it is. It's in Transylvania, and it's the actual castle where Vlad the Impaler was supposed to have been in prison for a week, and I actually saw the room where they kept him in like the 1300s or something like that. And it was a great place, and it was what rock music and heavy metal is all about: dragons and castles and knights and shining armor, and all of that stuff was there. And it would still make, it's still there, it would still make a tremendous setting for a concert, and I hope one day I can do that.
Did you get to sleep there?
Not in the castle. They're doing some things now, I guess, where you can actually stay in there. There's some special things that they do for people, but no, we stayed down the street at another place. It was a very unusual kind of a hotel, but it was okay.
I know.
It's a very odd part of the world there in Transylvania, believe me.
Yeah, that's a pretty scary place.
Yeah.
Yeah, somebody was in prison there with just stick a stick up their butt, a Sharpie one. So it would,
Yeah, how about that, huh?
yeah, it's a weird place.
It's
I
a
you
weird place.
I know you came up with the name La 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 Pooza, but
Lollapalooza?
Lala Pooza, sorry. But did you get to pick the acts, and are you still involved with it?
No, no, the way it works was Perry Farrell is the guy who started Lollapalooza, and he was the singer from Jane's Addiction. And I had booked Jane's Addiction prior to that a couple of times, and we had become friendly. And one night we were sitting up talking, and it turned out that the name Lollapalooza ended up being the name of his festival. And to be honest with you, it was 30 years ago. I don't remember who actually said it first, whether it was me or him. But all I know is before the word Lollapalooza came out of anybody's mouth, Perry said, you know, when he's trying to describe why he was looking for this word, he was trying to say that he wanted this show to be more than a concert where you just come in and sit down and watch a show and take off. He wanted it to be a whole day experience where everybody could get involved. And that's where we came up with the word Lollapalooza. But prior to that, he didn't have a name, but he knew he wanted to have a whole bunch of groups, and he wanted it to be a festival, but he wanted it to be more than a festival and have it be like a shopping mall where you could buy stuff that, you know, you couldn't find anywhere else. Scarves and smoking things and pipes and clothes and all different kinds of stuff. And that's what he ended up having. And, you know, it's the biggest touring festival in the world, and everybody compares their festivals to that one in terms of what they want theirs to be like. And he did a great job with it, but I'm not involved with it anymore, unfortunately, unless I put on one of the shows as a promoter. But I should.
Yeah, you should definitely. It would be nice.
You tell Perry that if you ever talk to him, okay?
Okay, I will. I promise.
You just remind him.
All right. Do you remember when Canada had SARS? They had the SARS virus, and they had a huge festival to kick off touring again, and let everybody know it's safe. Remember that festival? You know that one?
No, as a matter of fact, I don't. I remember sort of vaguely it happening. But anyway, what's the point?
Do you think you will do something like that when America beats COVID for rock?
I'll tell you what, we have so many shows that have been postponed multiple times since last March, a year ago, that it'll be a celebration enough for me one at a time for every one of those shows that got postponed, and for every one of those people that bought a ticket and held on to their tickets all this time. That's going to be my celebration right there. I mean, each and every one of those shows I want to have happen, and I want everybody to see the show they bought a ticket for, and I want those artists to give the greatest concerts that they've ever had. So, you know, I imagine, you know, somebody will try to get together some big show about all this, but frankly, I think that what's going to happen when we're able to safely go back and putting people in the same room together that don't know each other, I think we got to do it gradually. I think, you know, the smaller halls, the 500 and 1,000 and 2,000 capacity places need to really show how we're going to all deal with coming back and getting past all this. Because just like that, you know, I mean, there's not going to be a light switch where all of a sudden everything's going to be gone, right? It's people are going to still be frightened or careful or cautious or whatever. when they go back and they start hanging out the way that they used to. So I think the way that it ought to come back is one show at a time. Everybody gets to get comfortable with coming back. And, who knows, are we going to have to wear masks or not at the shows, at least at first? There's still some fact finding we got to find out about. So no, I don't think it's a good idea to put together a stadium full of people or a giant place to celebrate this coming back. In fact, I think I'd rather do just the opposite of that, like I said.
What band was the worst to work with? What band was the worst out of all of them?
None of them are really coming to mind right now. I'm sitting here having a nice conversation with you, looking out at Hana Bay here in Maui. I don't have a bad thing to say about anybody today.
Who was the best? Was there any good one?
Well, I'll start with all of them were the best, but I have a number of favorites. Alice Cooper is one of my friends that, you probably found out from reading. There's another fella named John Prine, who I was very, very close with, who I love doing shows with. We did more shows together out of those 10,000 shows than anybody else that I worked with. We did over 200 shows with him over the years. And he was by far my favorite guy. But there's so many other great people and fun people that I've met. I mean, you see all those names in there, and like I would say all of them are, because the whole purpose of that book was to show people, another side of these talented people, some that they know about, some they don't know about. Hopefully the people they didn't know about, they'll go check out because I said nice things about them,
Who has the craziest writer? Who has the craziest writer?
They at first, when you start doing this business, you think everything's crazy, but in reality, it's really not. Because basically what that group is doing when they send you a rider is they're telling you, think of it as like if you invited a friend over you haven't seen for a year or two, and you wanted to make his visit comfortable or her visit comfortable. And you'd say, I wonder what they want to have to eat. But you already know them, so they like turkey with no mayonnaise on white bread. You're going to have turkey with white bread there and no mayonnaise, and you're going to offer them a sandwich, and they're going to go, what do you have? And you're going to say turkey, and they're going to say, wow, that's just what I wanted. That's why there's riders, right? So you want to make their visit as hospitable and as courteous as you can. But if you've never worked with them before and you don't know them, you don't know what to provide for them. You don't know how much equipment they're going to bring. You don't know how many people they need to help them unload the equipment and set it up. So that's why those riders exist. What happened, though, many years ago, was when riders first started coming around, they would surprise the promoters with these lists of outrageous demands, because at the time they were demands because we bought concerts to put on concerts. We didn't realize we were going to become caterers or stagehand unions and security guys and box office guys and all the rest. But those are some of the businesses you have to learn about when you're putting on a concert. So you become multitasking, multifaceted. You do all kinds of stuff when you're a promoter. And one of those things is taking care of them. So those riders used to catch us by surprise. And sometimes they'd have stuff on there we could not even believe that was on there. They'd ask for a certain type of fish or a certain type of beer, or they'd say no brown M&Ms, or, one group asked me to have a complete petting zoo. I swear to God, they wanted a petting zoo. And you know why they put that there? I called them up and I said, you guys serious about this? And they said, of course not. We just wanted to see if you'd read it. So they thought it was pretty cool. I was the first guy that ever called them up and asked them if they really wanted a petting zoo. I can't remember the name of the group. It was a new band. They weren't big, and that's why they did it. They were being funny, and I enjoyed their humor. Very funny guys.
Yeah, that actually sounds pretty funny. Were you?
Wouldn't that be funny to come backstage and see a little pen with some baby goats?
Yeah, that would be hilarious.
Yeah, I think it'd be hilarious.
What was your favorite show to put on? Do you have any favorites?
Favorite show?
Yes.
Let's go with Paul McCartney.
Paul McCartney. All right, good one.
Is that a good one?
Yeah, that's a great one.
Paul's show was the first Beatle I promoted, and it was the first real large stadium show that I put on.
Oh.
And I was very proud of that. He was a great guy. He sold out in a few hours, and that was 1990. Were you born then? 1990?
No. I'm only 9. Only
What year were you born?
2011.
2011. What month?
April and April 5th.
April. So it's coming right up. You're going to be 10?
Yeah.
So how come you're doing this this podcast thing? What got you interested in that?
What got me interested in that is just that, my dad was an interviewer. He still is to this day. So he would take me backstage and I asked him, maybe you should ask this or maybe you should ask that. And he said, maybe you should go ask him. And I did. And they said, man, you should have your own show. You got some pretty nice questions.
So did you make up all these questions yourself?
Yes.
All right. Well, you're doing a great job.
Thank you. What was the worst? Did you have any worst?
Worst what?
Show. Any like a total disaster?
Total disaster, huh? Let me think. I've had some good ones. I'll give you a best of both. One time I was doing a show in Santa Fe, New Mexico, at a place called the Santa Fe Downs. It's a racetrack. And we had Santana playing there. And it was in the middle of the summer. And during the summer in New Mexico, they get a lot of monsoons and they get, windy days and a lot of rain. So on this one day, we had Santana playing at the Downs, and in the morning when we showed up to set up, it was raining. It was awful. They still had to set up the stage and put everything out, even though it was raining. And Carlos got there and he was very, very upset with me because I booked him on a rainy day in Santa Fe. But, he knows, like I know, you can't tell the weather what to do, right? But he was just being upset. And I was upset too, because the way it works with these shows is you still have to pay all those bills if you haven't made other arrangements for a second show or a makeup date. And I didn't have a makeup date, and he didn't have time in his schedule to replay the date. So what would have happened is I would have had to pay for all of those bills if the show didn't play. So we waited, and finally the weather broke and everybody came, everybody showed up, and we had a fantastic show. But within an hour's time, we were talking about canceling the show and him going on to the next city. It's going on to the next city and doing another show. And if he had done that, I would have lost a fortune. So the bad news was it rained on our show, and the good news was it stopped raining and it got sunny outside, and we had a great show. And the funniest thing is when the show stopped, within a minute of the show stopping, it poured rain out of the skies. So we made it by the skin of our teeth, and we were very lucky. It was, I went from losing $100,000 to making 50 or something like that. It was really an amazing moment.
Out of all the memories you have from doing the show, out of all the memories, what has to be your most? What has to be the best? What sticks out the most?
The best what, show?
Yeah. No memory. No memory.
Best memory. Boy, how about this one? How about this one? My wife's standing here, so I better give the right answer.
Okay.
Yeah, and at New Year's, at the New Year's Eve week of 1999, going into the millennium, 2000, I was doing some shows up in Las Vegas, and I met the girl who became my wife.
That's amazing. Great.
How about that?
Yeah, that's
So that-
fantastic, dude.
So that was over, it was just over 20 years ago. It was this little pop group called the Eagles we were doing.
Good for you, man. Good for you.
Thanks, man. I appreciate that.
Do you think a full-fledged touring will start next year?
Full-fledged what?
Touring will start next year.
I hope this year. Let's
Yeah, me
fingers,
too.
let's get fingers crossed. I'd really like to see everything coming back by Labor Day.
Yeah, I've been praying, actually praying on my knees.
You keep praying. I'll do it too.
I'm praying. So tell me, what do you think touring is going to be like when it starts up again?
I don't expect it to be any different. You know, I mean, it's a funny thing about disasters. They come, they happen, they're over, life goes on. And although I've never been in a disaster quite like this one before, I think at the end of the day, it'll be just like the other disasters I've been around. And, you know, hopefully we come out of it smarter and we never have anything bad like this happen again.
Do you think bands will have to play small places for a while?
Well, they're already doing that. I mean, bands are, you know, the bands that really, really want to play and the ones that really got to get out there and feel like they got to do something, they're already doing whatever they can do. They play shows on the internet or they go play a drive-in movie theater. But I think the fact that you're not seeing already after one whole year, you're really not seeing any COVID safe concerts per se, like we've heard people talking about, where 500 people show up out of 12 or 1,500. The problem is you can't pay the bills. You can't pay all the workers at the show. You can't pay the band. You can't pay the advertising. There's something that's not going to get paid because you just can't charge enough money to make up for those lost tickets. So bottom line is this, I feel like this is coming to an end, all of this. And within the next few months, you're going to start seeing more and more shows roll out. And hopefully by the end of the year, we'll be doing them without restrictions and everybody's going to be back to a normal life and wish that all this had never happened. Of course, it could come out completely different. I could be completely full of it, but you can't call me a liar until it happens, right? So let's keep our fingers crossed for a positive rest of this year, the second half of this year. The first half, let's face it, is pretty shot. I was hoping for Memorial Day, and that doesn't look so hot 2 months away from now. We still got a long ways to go. Got to get our numbers down. We got to get the vaccines up. Everybody's got to be safe and healthy, and we'll go back to having a lot of good concerts.
Are ticket prices going to go up by any chance? Ticket prices?
It's hard to say right now. I mean, see what would have already happened or could have already happened, and I haven't really seen it happen, is, you know, if you're going to sell 1,000 tickets instead of 2,000 tickets, it seems like the 1,000 tickets would have gone up double in price. Nobody's called me up and said, double your ticket prices over the last time we played together so I can do a concert. Everybody just kind of seems to be waiting. Everybody's waited a year. It's going to be a few more months, and there's so many shows all over the world that are scheduled because they've just been postponed and not canceled. I think everything will return to normal sooner than you think.
With states having tighter restrictions, do you think bands will just skip them now to avoid the hassle?
They might have to be. I mean, it's not even about a hassle, is it? It's if somebody says you can't put more than 5 people in a 10-foot space, you're not going to have a show. So they would just have to overlook and completely skip that state. No band, I think, is really going to want to go against any local rules or regulations. It doesn't make for a good time for anybody. So if you have states that are a little more lenient, and hopefully they're more lenient because their numbers aren't as bad as something else. For instance, right now in Texas, you have the governor telling people they don't have to mask up and they don't need to, and you can't make it mandatory. Well, I think he's breaking the law morally anyway. I think Texas is going to have themselves a lot of trouble. I don't want to go anywhere near Texas or Oklahoma. These people are crazy. It's like, why would you go up against everything that everybody else is saying it's opposite? I don't trust them, and I'm not going there. Anybody else that does that kind of stuff too soon, I'm going to be wary of them. And there's plenty of other things to do and plenty of people who are reasonable to talk to and deal with, where you can get good answers instead of insanity. I've had enough insanity to last me a lifetime here.
What is for you? Any shows? Or are you just going to be sharing with your wife?
What's that?
What is next for you?
Well, what's next for me is to enjoy Maui while I can. We're going to be here for a little while, and then we'll go back to Arizona. And what's next for me is I'm going to continue promoting this book and hopefully get it into as many hands as I possibly can. And that's why I'm here talking to you, because you're going to help me get it into somebody else's hands, right?
Yes, I promise.
I'm really I'm looking forward to you putting our interview out there, and I hope you'll tell everybody to make sure that I know when they buy a book, it happened because they heard you and me.
Thank you. So
do you know where to get my book?
Yes, Amazon.
Do you know where else? You can get it at dzplive.com. That's like Danny Zelisko presents live.com. And if you buy it from me directly there, we'll ship it back to you, and I'll even sign it.
All right, then. Thank you. Really, thank you.
All right.
How do I follow you about your shows and where you get your book? And I see some merch as well. Any merch?
Yeah, I have some all access t-shirts we're selling on our page, and those are there for $15. They're nice black shirts, nice black rock and roll t-shirts. And what else? At the DannyZeliskoPresents.com or dzplive.com, we're working on rebuilding the site. So I'm selling the books there. I'm selling some of my memorabilia that I've collected from over the years there. And mostly we're listing our concerts there. And, like I said before, we're hoping they're going to start up again this summer.
I heard Alice Cooper is one of your best friends, I heard.
He is.
Do you think you could ask him to be on my show so we can talk about his new album, these short stories?
You know what? You know what you should do is you should write me a note.
All right.
And Alice has never sent an email in his whole life. Can you believe that? Anybody who hasn't sent an email out? So his wife does his emails for him. So you send me a note, doesn't have to be long. Send me a link to when you get our show done. Send me a link with that, and I'll send it to him, and I'll ask him if he'll do it. I have no idea what his schedule is like. I know he's coming here to Maui in the next week or two, and then we're supposed to do something. What were we supposed to do? Oh, we have to make a video for White Castle. White Castle just is celebrating its 100th birthday today. And both Alice and I are in the Cravers Hall of Fame at White Castle. So we're going to make a little video for them.
Like you said in the book, it's all about networking.
You're right.
Well,
so you asked me about Alice, I asked him, and we keep on going, right?
All right, then. Thank you.
You bet.
So you did a book. When is it gonna make a movie about your life.
Well, if enough guys like you write enough nice things or interview me enough, maybe they'll take notice and do that. But right now, I happen to agree with you. It should be a movie or it should be a TV show. I mean, think about it. Of all the shows that are on TV, all the cable TV channels, all the channels that are there, hundreds and hundreds of channels, there are no rock and roll TV shows.
Yes.
How about that?
Yes, dude. Yes. Finally, somebody's actually taking notice that like they're getting rid of rock. Like
Yeah.
it's only hip hop though. It's like they're all getting rid of.
I personally don't think that's the case. I think rock has just kind of taken a back seat for a little while, and I think it's time for rock to reclaim the front seat and put the hip hoppers and the boy bands in the back seat where they belong. See,
Yeah.
because see what happens is when those kid bands grow up and they don't want to be dance toys anymore. They don't want to be boy bands. They want to be taken seriously as real rock stars. They don't want to be doing those moves. And they'll find out when they grow up. Wait till BTS grows up. The next thing you know, their hair is going to grow and they're going to be playing guitars. Okay, they won't be dancing around like a bunch of sissy boys. I'm kidding. But I'm just trying to dramatize my point. My point is that I think rock, guitars, loud music is going to make a big comeback in the next couple of years. And I think it's going to happen because everybody's going to be so damn happy they can go to a concert again.
Yes.
How about that?
We need a huge comeback for rock.
That's the celebration you want.
Yeah, that's definitely.
Everybody going out and buying a Fender or a Gibson and a set of Ludwigs. Let's go.
It's so maybe if we do that, I would love to be the MC of it. I would love to be the MC.
Well, how about taking some guitar lessons and do it yourself?
All right, yeah, sure.
See, what would be great is if you came on your radio show here playing a couple of riffs before you started.
Okay. Yeah,
Wouldn't that be cool?
I'm going to be taking lead guitar lessons actually, and drum
You
lessons.
have to, because then when you have these guys and you're interviewing, you can make them show you a chord on the Zoom.
Thank you. Yeah, definitely. Yeah, that'd actually be good. Yeah, definitely. Well, thank you for being on my show. I hope the next time we talk, it's at the backstage at one of your concerts.
Well, you'll be there and I'll be putting the pass right on you, okay?
All right. Have a good day, man.
All right. Thanks for calling. I appreciate it.
Yeah, have a good day with your wife.
I'll look forward to hearing your show.
Peace, man.
Peace.
Have a great
Peace out.